What's up, guys? So in this video, I'm going to go through how to get stock tickers from Twitter. So the idea being, if you have, certain like FinTwit influencers or whatever you call them, people that you follow on Twitter that tweet about different stocks, and you want a script or a bot to, to be able to pull in all the tickers that they're tweeting about. This is how you would do that. So there's several things that you need to accomplish that. One is obviously a Twitter account. So obviously I have a Twitter account, and you see I have a Twitter list that I'm going to be pulling the tweets from. So like this list, I have this list here, stock list, not very creative. It has 88 people that I'm following. Maybe I need to clean that up a little bit. I'm not sure if all of them are worth following or not, but that's who's in this list as of now. And you can see as I go through this list, oh, whoops. If I scroll, we have different people. So like this guy's, tweeting about Netflix, Tesla. This guy, here's a couple of symbols here that this guy is mentioning, showing his watch list. So the idea is that, this script is going to basically go through these tweets that are in this list and pull out any stock symbols that people may be tweeting about. Obviously, not all the tweets are going to contain a symbol, like this one does not. But again, we can usually tell with like, the dollar sign, what is a stock symbol, and we'll go through how the script would know that as well. So the other thing that you would need is actually to set up a developer project. So if you have a Twitter account, if you just go to developer.twitter.com, then you're going to go into the Twitter developer portal. As you see here, from there, you would just create a project and an app. I'm not going to go through that. It's pretty self-explanatory when you get there. But you would just basically, again, create a project, create an app inside that project, and by doing that, you'll see that you're going to get a consumer keys, like an API key and secret, and access tokens. I'm not going to reveal those. I have them working in production. So, I'll blur those out in this video. But yeah, so you're going to need, again, like those 4 keys that you would get here. So I'm going to use Google Colab for this. If you guys aren't familiar, it's basically like a Python notebook that, kind of like a sandbox playground where you can test different scripts. So I'm just going to do this in here just so we can kind of like see this separate and, see how this works. I'll just call this, I don't know, Twitter script. We'll call it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import Tweepy as TW. So Tweepy is Python Twitter library. If you guys aren't familiar, easy to use Python library. It has pretty good documentation. What we're going to be using is the list timeline. So you see here, this method returns a timeline of tweets authored by members of a specified list. So again, like I have my Twitter list. I believe you guys can actually just use the same Twitter list if you don't want to create your own. I think if you just go to like my Twitter profile, I think you can view my list. It's a public list. So yeah, if you guys want to just use mine, go for it. If you want to create your own, people you want to follow, you can do that as well. So going back, I'm just going to import that. And then I'm going to create some variables that would just be constants in this case, like my Twitter consumer key, my Twitter consumer secret, and I'll show you when we start implementing why I'm calling it these things, just so I understand where they go as I'm setting up the OAuth for Tweepy. See, and we'll say Twitter access token secret. And again, I'm not going to display these. I'm just going to paste in my keys, and I'm going to blur them out. Okay. From there, we can set up the Twitter authentication, basically. So that's the first thing. Is first we need to authenticate. So we'll call it we'll say Twitter auth. So to authenticate, we're going to use the Tweetbee OAuth handler. And you can see the things it takes is a consumer key and a consumer secret, which is why, again, I called the variables as I did. So we know Twitter consumer key, Twitter consumer secret. It also would take a callback, but I don't need to add anything for that. So then from there, we'll take this Twitter auth variable and we'll call set access token. And you see that takes in a key and a secret, and that would be the access token and the access token secret. Okay. And again, these are keys that we're just going to get from our developer account. See, access token and secret, like that's where you would get these. And the API key and secret is the consumer. That is the consumer key and consumer secret. Okay. Quick sip of water. Okay. So from there, after we create this auth object, we can create an API object. So we use the Tweetbee package again. It has an API method where we would pass the auth, and I'm also going to use this wait on rate limit variable. I'm going to set that to true. Oh, I'm sorry, not auth. It's Twitter auth. So wait on rate limit basically just says so in our Twitter developer account, we're making requests. There's a limit to how many requests we can make in a certain timeline. So if wait on rate limit was false, then if we make a request but we're past our limit, then it's just going to stop. We're not going to continue making that request. If we wait on the limit, then we'll just pause. Basically, we'll take a pause in the project, wait for that limit to clear up again, and then we'll continue making our requests. That's what I want to do here. So let me play this. Okay, so now we have the API built. The next thing we can do is actually get our tweets. So we'll set tweets equal to Twitter API dot, again, that list timeline method. So you see we have all these other methods we can use. Feel free to take a look if you think there's some other methods that may work better in this case. But this one I felt is pretty good for me. And then we're going to pass in a list ID. So the list ID in this case is going to be in the URL. So you see we have Twitter lists and this big long string of numbers. That is the ID of this list. So if I go back, I can just paste that in. And I'm also going to provide a count. And to start, let's just do 1. We'll just grab 1, just so you can kind of we can take a look at just 1 separately. Okay, so we get that. And then, after we get our tweets, the idea we would want to loop through them. So we'll start that even though we only have 1, we'll start our loop. And I guess, to start, we'll just print it out and take a look at what comes in here. Okay. So I'm going to go to a JSON formatter just so we can take a better look at this, because it comes back in a JSON object mostly, with the status as well, but let me expand this. So you see we have our tweet when it was created, the text, good morning, hope everyone had a good night or a night off, whatever the case. So let me just go back so we can kind of compare that. I'm gonna refresh this list. Okay, so it was this tweet here from MDT, Matty Day Trades. Hope everyone had a good night after we drop. Yeah, I'm not going to read the tweet, but you get the idea. It does contain a ticker. It's a spy. But yeah, so there's that. That's really all we're going to be using. There are, if they include some URLs, there's some user information that comes back. Obviously, you might want to have some sort of user information, like maybe you only want tweets from certain users in certain scripts or whatever the case is. So there's some user information and really all this other extra information that we're not actually going to use. We're really just going to concentrate on the text, which is truncated at this point. So, yeah. Okay, so going back, so we have the tweets. I'm also going to just print out the directory just so we can get an idea of what is available that we can use. So I'm going to print the tweet directory. So that's going to print out the attributes that are available, and I'll just put that actually in a comment here. Just so we can see what's going to be used. So this is, all the variables that come back when we print out a when we print out a tweet. Again, we saw them. We were looking in through the JSON, but mainly what we're going to use is just the text. Just to see, again, if there's tickers in that text. Well, we're going to use those tickers because we want those tickers in a list. Okay, so I'm actually just going to change now. We've kind of looked at a tweet. I'm just going to change this to 10. I think that might be better when we're doing a loop. Okay, so I just changed the count to 10. I just repopulated my list of tweets here. What I like about Colab is that when we're running these these little code blocks above, we don't have to rerun them after we run them once, but unless we want to change something. So if I want to make a change to a variable, otherwise those variables, will exist in the lower code blocks, which is nice. Okay, so from there, again, I'm no longer going to print. What I'm going to do is get the text of the tweet. So in order to do that, we're going to take the tweet and we're going to take the JSON. So we saw that in the formatter. We saw there's the underscore JSON and then all the information. Again, we want to take the text. So we get that text. I'll print that out just so we can take a look at it. Print text. And then from there, I want to split that text into words. So I'm going to say tweet words equal text.split, because the idea is that we want to check every single word and to see if that word specifically is a stock. So here we're going to separate this, in this case we're going to separate all this into its own separate into a list of words. So we're going to take the string, create a list of words from it, and check that list of words to see if any of those are a stock symbol. So after I print the text, I'm going to print the tweet words. Okay, and then again, just to test here, and then we want to loop through those words for word in tweet words to check again. Like the idea is that we want to check if we want to loop through the words to see if that word is a stock symbol. That's kind of the idea here. So what are the qualifications of a stock symbol? Like that's basically something we need to determine in our logic. There's not just is stock symbol, like there's no method for that. Could create a method for that, but yeah, that doesn't exist at this time. So like what, qualifications? A, it's capitalized. B, it starts with a $sign, right? Like that's kind of how Twitter takes that, this VWAP, like that's a technical indicator. That's not something that we want to pull in. This guy's tweeting in all caps, so we can't just say like, anything capitalized is a symbol. But also as you can see, we can't just say, anything that is capitalized and starts with a $sign, because what if it is a number, or if a word and number, the $sign. We don't want to capture something that looks like this, where it's US1 or whatever the case is. We don't want to capture this. It's not a stock symbol. So yeah, so basically that's just going to be a series of if statements. So we're going to say if word starts with, that's just a built-in Python method for a string. If it starts with a $sign and word is upper, right? Because we want it to be capitalized. And what I'm also going to do is actually create a method. We also want to check if it, again, contains a number. And for that, I'm actually going to create a separate method for that to check that. I didn't find a good way in Python to determine that. Like just some if statement if it contains a number. So we'll create our own. So we'll say contains number. We'll pass in a word, and we're going to check that word. So in order to do that, we can loop through the characters of that word to determine if any of those characters are a digit. So we'll say for character in word, we'll say if character dot is digit, return true. And then if we get to the end, we'll return false. And false will indicate, that it does not contain a number, which is what we want. So we'll say and not contains, first let me play this. Okay, that looks good. If not contains number, and we'll pass in word. Okay, so again, these are the qualifications of, what we're considering potentially a stock. So we're going to say, starts with a $sign, is upper, and contains a word. Or I'm sorry, and does not contain a number. So we'll say from there, print, we'll print the potential stock word. We'll say word. Okay. All right, you know what? Let's run this just to look at all of our printing to see what we get. So we have 10 tweets. We'll take a look. Okay. Text might be a little much. Okay, so we see potential stock word, SQ. Okay, so I think that looks good going through. So we saw like a wealth pro retweet. SQ OTM. So you see, I guess like this person was tweeting about a specific contract, $70 puts, 930 expirations, 2 million premiums. Okay. So what we did there, we separated that into words, as we see here, and we said a potential word was SQ, and then okay. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do, actually, I feel like this is getting tough to read, but okay, from there we saw somebody else tweeted about this, I guess, Kern. So we saw Kern, 35 million, and then we saw potential word Kern. Potential word. But one more thing to note that we actually want to get rid of, looking at this, see potential stock word Kern with a period. So I guess how that tweet came in was Kern. So you see this person did Kern period, 35 million traded in pre-market, 77 million float. We want to remove the period as well because, we just want to get the ticker. Really, I mean, we want to remove the $sign as well because, the goal is really just to get the ticker. So after we have our potential word, the next thing we want to do is remove punctuation. And to do that, let's actually I'll create another method. I'll just put it up here. Like this will be my list of, other methods. And I'm just going to call it remove punctuation. Okay. To do that, I'm also going to pass in a word. And to remove the punctuation, what I'm going to do with this, so I'm actually going to import, Python has I'll put this up here just to show. So like Python has a built-in library called string, which we'll import. And with that string library, it has a variable called punctuation, which we can print out to get an idea, like watch string.punctuation. So we print that, you see it has all the different types of punctuation, and those are the things we want to remove from that stock word. Again, going back, like we don't want to see, kern with the dollar sign and a period, the idea is that we want to, take something that looks like this and turn it into just kern, as we see here. So in order to do that, we'll say, so what we're going to do is like take that word, basically like break it into a list of characters and put that list of, and if any of those characters are punctuation, we're going to remove them and take the rest of the characters and join them back into an actual word. So we'll just create a list, I guess, just called punctuation remove, I guess, to start. I'm going to set that equal to character for character in word if character not in string dot punctuation. Okay, so what that's doing again is looping through all the characters in the word, and if the character is not in we'll call it a list. If the character is not in one of these characters, then we're going to add it to this list. And then from there, we would just have, we're going to have a list of characters, basically, like something that looks like, so like this is going to end up looking something like this, like K-E-R-N, ideally. And what we want to do then is combine them back into a word. So we'll say, I don't know, say word no punct equals this punct remove list dot. Oh, I'm sorry. So no, what we're going to do is actually just take a blank string and we're going to say join that with the all of these characters in this remove list, and we're going to return that. So that's going to be, again, our word with no punctuation, I believe so. So that method we're going to use. So I'm not going to print this anymore, just because it's getting a little, I don't want this to get too thick, I guess. So now we're going to say word equals remove punctuation word, and we'll reprint. We'll call this cleaned up potential stock word, I guess. All right, so let's run through this, see how that looks. Okay, so we see potential stock word is SQ with the dollar sign, cleaned up is just SQ, potential stock word is kern, so we have kern just cleaned up. There was another one, BIAF, with the with a dash, that's cleaned up into just BIAF. Okay, so so it's good. So now we're getting actual symbols. So this is good. And from here, let's actually we'll create a list. We'll say I don't know. We'll call it Twitter stocks, and we'll just declare that as blank. And here we'll add that to the list. And then at the end, we'll print out Twitter stocks. And I'm just gonna, whatever, I'll just keep that. Okay, so we have our Twitter stocks, we have SQ, kern, BIF, and then SQ 2 more times, which I actually like. You may be thinking like, well, why don't we check if it's in the list first before adding it to the list? And the reason I'm not doing that is because I not only want to see like what tickers are being tweeted about, I also want to see how often tickers are being tweeted about, and which ones are being tweeted about the most. Like in this case, we're seeing SQ 3 times. So, that might be one we want to focus on. Maybe what we're going to go through is actually like sorting these in order that they appear, like how often they appear. Because again, like if we have 20 different tweets that are about SQ, yes, we may not know in this scenario like it could be all from the same person, but that might be a good indicator that a lot of people are talking about it. And therefore, that's one we want to concentrate on. Whereas, maybe like kern, BIAF, We don't want to, and especially, this especially rings true if, right now we're just looking through 10 tweets, but, we raise this to 100, 500, 1,000, whatever the case is. This list is obviously, it's going to be huge, and we may not want all of the tickers. We may only want the ones that are being mentioned multiple times, and we could actually set a threshold for that, and that's something we'll go through now. Sip of water. Okay, so I'm gonna create another code. Another code block. And again, like what we're looking for is, try to figure out the count of each of these, like how often they appear. So we have our list of, tickers, which is good. And then from there, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this built-in Python library from collections. I'm going to import counter, and what that does is, again, like I'm going to use that to count how many times a ticker is mentioned. So I'll say ticker count, and I'm going to set a count variable. I'm going to use this counter library, and I'm going to pass in my Twitter stocks, which is this list, and what that is going to do is actually count those for me. So hold on one second. Let's actually just print that so we can see what that looks like. Okay, so you see what that did is create a map, key values of, the records in the list, say how many times they are, how many times they're used, how many times they're mentioned in this list, how many times they appear in the list. Okay, so that's a good thing. Again, we have hundreds, thousands of tweets that we're combing through. Maybe we only want ones that appear, 10 times, 20 times, whatever the case is. We're going to have a lot of ones that occur once. This list is going to be huge, and, we don't want to have every single possible stock. Like maybe we just want to have, again, like a threshold, which we'll set up now, having a threshold. So do a new block here. I'm just going to keep it in the same block. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you how we can do it based on a threshold. So I'm going to loop through the keys and values. So we'll say for KV, whatever I'll do for key value in count.items. I'm going to say if value, again, the value is going to be the number in this case. Let's say greater than or equal to 3, because maybe I only want ones that appear 3 times. I'm going to append that to this list of Twitter counts. I'll say this will be a list of objects. We'll make it. So we'll append an object that has a ticker property where we'll pass in the key, and it'll have a count property where we'll pass in the value. Okay, so let's print that just so you can see what that looks like. Ticker count. Okay, so you can see here what that looks like. We just have our SQ because it's the only one that appears at least 3 times, so we have just that. What I'm going to do now actually is I'm going to actually up this just so we can work with some more tweets, work with some more potential tickers. Let's actually go back and let's up this a little bit. Let's up this to 100 and see what happens here. So now we have 100 tweets. Don't need to do this anymore. I already have this method. I'm going to actually not print as much stuff. You know what? Let's print. Why not? Okay, potential words, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now you see our final list is much bigger. I do see some duplicates. I see just at the end here, we see some duplicates. So let's see how the count looks. Okay. So you see why we had BIAF 5 times, SQ 4 times, AMD 3 times, and you see, so it looks like these would be the ones that we would keep in this case. So we have SQ 4 times, BIAF 5 times, AMD 3 times, SPY 3 times, ADT 3 times. All right, great. So now we have multiple stocks that our bot or whatever can use just based on the count. Based on the count that they appear. And now we don't have all these others, like, even though, these are all other stocks, like, obviously, again, we don't have to do this. We can use every single stock that's returned. But, the idea is, again, we're going to concentrate on the ones that people are talking about a lot. So from there, I could actually sort these by lists. You see, like, again, like I know Counter did that, but yeah, so they're going into this list unsorted. So I'm going to just sort them. So I could actually take this ticker count and use this built-in sorted method where I pass the iterable, which would just be the ticker count. The key is going to be lambda x. So x, and I'm going to use the count for the sorting. Again, we want to sort by the count variable, and the initial setup actually sorts it ascending. We want to sort it descending with the most recent ones with not the most recent, with the most frequent ones on top. So yeah, so we can print that out. Print ticker count just to see the change. Okay, so you see that sorted by BIF 5 times, SQ 4 times, and the others that are 3. Yep, so that's sorted in the order that we want. And then, from there, if we're returning it to a bot or whatever the case is, then, we don't maybe need the count anymore. We really only needed the count when we were, sorting and, determining which ones that we actually wanted to use. In this case, we said we only wanted to use the ones that appeared more than 3 times or greater than or equal to 3 times. So now I'll set it actually equal to a list. So I'll just say like final ticker list, and then I'll just loop through ticker object in ticker count, and I will append the ticker to the list. Append ticker object ticker. Okay, and then we'll print our final ticker list. Okay. There it is. Okay, so now we have a list of stocks that we got from our Twitter list. So we loop through, just to recap, we brought in the most recent 100 tweets from that list, and then we looped through we went through the text of of those tweets. We checked if they met the criteria for a ticker, which was, starting with the $, uppercase, does not contain a number. If that was the case, we removed any punctuation that was in there. After that, then, we were left with a list of tweets, but with duplicates in the list because, we went through, it didn't matter if it already existed. We still added it to the list, as you see with this SQ being added multiple times and, whatever else was in there. From there, we said we only want the ones that appear more than 2 times, so greater than or equal to 3. Those are the only ones we decided to keep. From there, we built a list of the tickers and how many times they appeared, and then from there we sorted by the most common. This way, if we want our bot or whatever to use the ones based on the order that the order of frequency. So like in this case, we may want to use BIAF first because, it appears the most. So that's why we do the sort with the counts. But then after we do that, we don't actually need the count anymore. So we just turn that into a list of tweets, a list of tickers. So yeah, so that's it. This is how to get stock symbols from a Twitter list. Hope you guys enjoyed that and learned something. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below. This is my first tutorial. Hope to continue to make more in the future and keep showing you guys how you can use Python for financial analysis. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.